There was a time when I gave a prophecy about Adonijah and Joab. I do not wish to repeat that prophecy. That was a very simple prophecy. It didn't really require a lot of work, a lot of thinking to interpret it. I said, was not Joab a nephew of King David? How come Joab rebelled against his uncle and he sided with a rebellious son? And in that prophecy, I continued to ask, is Joab going to live? Is Joab going to live? Of course, if you read the Bible, you will understand that this incident happened in 1 Kings chapter 1, where Adonijah conspired with his nephew Joab, the general, the army general in Israel, to attempt to unseat the president, the king, just like our own president was unseated by a military coup in 2017. That was a very unfortunate event, and I just want to tell you that we are still a long way from home. We are still a long way from home. There are mistakes that we continue to make every time, and our biggest problem is we are a people who love to live in fantasy, in utopia. We do not want to face the reality, admit where we make mistakes, and improve. I remember telling the people of Zimbabwe that the Mnangagwa regime is not coming to build Zimbabwe. They have been behind Mr. Mugabe for a long time, and they wanted to be in power. They clamored for the presidential office, and they did a lot of scheming and plotting, and they took advantage of the disorder that was in Mr. Mugabe's family and his marriage and his house, and unknowingly Mr. Mugabe walked out of reality and went into a certain trance where things are happening, and he has lost control. And that's why the coup was successful, and the people of Zimbabwe were used to create an impression that Mr. Mugabe was removed by a vote of no confidence by the population of Zimbabwe, who protested that they don't want Mugabe anymore. But Mr. Mugabe was already under house arrest when those demonstrations were done. When the parliament set to try and force Mr. Mugabe to resign by casting a vote of no confidence, trying to do an impeachment process, Mr. Mugabe then resigned. But by that time, Mr. Mugabe was already under house arrest, and by that time, some people had already been killed. And Mrs. Opam Chinguri lied in parliament that the coup was a bloodless coup. But there are people who were killed. I remember some time ago sharing with you the name of one of intelligence operatives who was murdered at one commando brigade when he was tortured. That information is there for public consumption, even on social media. So many people died, they were killed. So it wasn't a bloodless coup. People died and nobody is talking about it. But I talked about it, and I said God wants you to see that these men have nothing good in their minds for the people of Zimbabwe. He wants them to be exposed. Their inefficiencies and their weaknesses shall be openly available for everyone to see. I said that the day the coup was done, I said it. I was in town when people were marching and running, celebrating the criminal removal of Mr. Mugabe from office. There is another mistake that was committed again. The people supported the military. They were seen taking pictures, climbing onto military vehicles, artillery vehicles, and armored cars. They were saying the military has done a good thing by removing a tyrant from office. I told the people of Zimbabwe that that was a mistake. The people of Zimbabwe should have demonstrated that particular day that every ZANU-PF person in government should go. It was not Mr. Mugabe who had destroyed Zimbabwe. It was the whole party, the whole system. What happened is ZANU-PF replaced a tyrant with even a more reckless and ruthless tyrant. But now it's difficult for the world to believe that this Second Republic is oppressing us, because when they took power militarily and forcefully, the people supported them and they said, we are in a second dispensation, a Second Republic. It's a new dispensation. People are going to see the development that shall happen. Nothing has happened now. Things have gone worse. When Mr. Mnangagwa took office, a loaf of bread was going for 90 cents, less than $1. Right now, a loaf of bread is costing an amount that is almost equivalent to $20. The things have gone worse. There's murder, there's abductions, there's violence, political violence. People are dying every day, and the economy is plummeting to abysmal levels of hardships. People are continuously finding it very difficult to put food on their tables. So another mistake was also committed by the opposition. I think the opposition, if they wanted to appear honest to the people of Zimbabwe, they should publicly admit that they made a mistake. Mr. Chamisa and his political activists, they must admit that they made a mistake by whitewashing a criminal activity, a criminal event that should have been condemned. The opposition stood on the podiums side by side with ZANU-PF politicians, and they said we are happy that we have managed to remove Mr. Mugabe from office. If you are a serious Zimbabwean, you must begin to question the integrity of the intentions of the opposition towards the ordinary citizens. Are they really committed to improving our lives, the lives of every ordinary Zimbabwean, or they are just looking for an opportunity to do the same that the ZANU-PF politicians are doing today? What was the idea? What was their plan? The ZANU-PF used the opposition to do some sugarcoating of a military criminal activity. The opposition should have said, we have nothing to do with internal political party issues. ZANU-PF has got its own factional problems. We stand with the constitution and we stand with the people of Zimbabwe. We demand that ZANU-PF should surrender the reins of administrating and governing people. We want to offer an alternative government that is accountable to its citizens. We condemn the forceful removal of Mr. Mugabe from office. That way the outside world was going to realize that there is a constitutional crisis in Zimbabwe. Mr. Mnangagwa took over to finish Mr. Mugabe's term of office, something that was not supposed to happen if the law was followed. You can't arrest someone and then say the party is replacing him with another person. That should not have happened like that. Mr. Mugabe did not resign. Mr. Mugabe was forced. He was frog-marched into writing a resignation letter. The opposition sanctified a coup. They glorified a coup. They participated in a criminal activity. If somebody is to become president today and the removal of Mr. Mugabe is now prosecuted in a court of law, if Mr. Mnangagwa is arrested for the removal of Mr. Mugabe from office, the opposition will also need to be arrested. Yes. Because they participated, they conspired to do something that was criminal. How genuine is the opposition in dealing with Zimbabwe's economic and political problems? They seem to be very keen on taking every opportunity available to go into government, even through the back door. I suggest and I suspect that the opposition thought that ZANU-PF was going to ask them to join them in forming a unity government. That was another level of naivety that needs to be investigated. Do we have right politicians to take on ZANU-PF if they are this naive? Mr. Chinamasa was quoted saying, whoever thought that we were going to do a government of national unity was drunk. Yes. Mr. Mugabe was removed by ZANU-PF and ZANU-PF will deal with this matter. This is what Mr. Chinamasa said after Mugabe resigned. Yes. Before then, we saw them in Highfields standing side by side with war veterans condemning Mr. Mugabe. A few days later, they were kicked out of the events like small puppies. And ZANU-PF went back to its usual grandstanding game. Yes. I am worried about the optimism of Zimbabwean people towards the opposition political leaders who are promising them a paradise when they have structural problems that are very concerning and worrying as far as their capacity is concerned. The capacity of opposition people is questionable, very questionable. Yes, it's very questionable. Don't want to search for it.
That is true.
Joke one.